All right. Got a project here.
Yeah, we do. We're going to talk out a project.
We're having a conversation about, how would you put it? Connecting people with the greater impact that their work can have in terms of stop me whenever I'm
Keep going. Man.
Stop me whenever I'm
Stop me if you've heard this one.
I'm off base. So any job that we have has the opportunity to be greater than simply the sum of its duties.
Like operational
right.
pieces.
Exactly.
This is a core tenet of our company.
So if you took something like being a barista, all baristas essentially do the same thing operationally, but there's a million different ways to be a barista. So if you're a barista, you're making hundreds of lattes a day. Everyone's steaming milk, everyone's pulling espresso, everyone's cleaning the floor drain, everyone's cleaning the toilet. But how we approach that work and how we connect with other people while we're doing that work impacts other people, but it also impacts ourselves, because when we see our job as having a deeper meaning and know what it means for someone, I have this fucking conversation all the time with guests that come in and talk to them about how the coffee's great, but really how I feel when I come here is awesome. This is the best part of my week. This is the best part of my day. I, feel seen, connected, all these other things. So it's like how you approach that work greatly affects the impact that your work has. Anyway, that's just laying some foundation here.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so
sense.
One of the bigger things that you can do as an organization is more deeply connect people with that opportunity, the opportunity that lies just beyond making the latte or roasting the coffee. So we want to go deeper into that. And we're kind of talking about how to do that at scale. It's a little easier to do when you have a small place.
Like one store is way easier.
So we've got multiple levels of leadership, multiple locations, and I mean, you should jump in here, Jared. So you've got some
I'm just
desires we have, and hopes and dreams.
Always do. I mean, we also have a mission that specific. So, I mean, that's the thing. If you have your own organization, you have to have some clarity around who you are trying to be. So I think that's important too. I mean, we created a mission and values specifically with the intent to speak to this concept, right? If we have a mission that is to inspire connection by creating a memorable experience or memorable experiences, you have a duty. That's your everyday work. And you can say those words and they could just be words, or you could decide to lean into what they mean in the context of being that barista. What do you do to inspire a connection by creating a memorable experience? And that is super personal. We have values to back up some of the behaviors we want in our company, pursuing better, working as a team, taking ownership, et cetera, et cetera. We got 5, but we want that to be the mission of the company. And for each individual, if you do that every single day, then you should find your way to something meaningful. And that's reciprocal. And it's energy giving, like you said, to both parties, to all parties, to your team members, to yourself, and to the guests that you serve. It feels good.
But sometimes that's a lot to ask, like individual new team members coming in to maybe like find and maintain that feeling over time. And that's what we're talking about, right? Is like, how do we drive, like, from the company being in the driver's seat to help create that feeling for everyone who's part of the team?
Well, I think what I'm trying to articulate is the energy is actually really easy if it's the focus. I don't think it's the focus. I don't think we're articulating the focus well and consistently. Because that, to me, is the whole point. Is we've said it over and over again. When that's happening and that is the focus, the energy and the gamification of it starts bouncing off of people. Not everybody will pick it up, you're right. So some of the individuals might need, that's where you have leadership. I totally agree with you. And you need to teach it, you need to reinforce it. But if that is like the living, breathing tenet of your company, the energy actually gets created and will, in a positive way, I think, like upwardly snowball or tornado, whatever. I don't even know what the word would be there, but it will totally do it for you if everybody is focused on that. Because you're going to get feedback from your guests. You're going to get literal excitement by somebody sharing, like, dude, I did this thing and the lady was so excited, or the person, like, we've had those stories over and over again, and we will hear it from guests. People are doing that in our company, don't get me wrong, but I don't think, I do think, I should say, is that it takes a lot of intention and focus for it to be the one thing that everything else kind of stems from. And I'd say that's where I want to work, is like make the mission the focus of everything we do first, and still clean the toilets and make the lattes. Still, but if like when your framework changes, your meaning changes. And so there's efficiency, people won't be as happy if it takes an hour for you to get your drinks and food, sure, but if all we're thinking behind the bar as baristas and chefs and concierges is how fast can I be, how does it feel, right? Versus how can we have systems that actually work really well, and we have training that theoretically should make people pretty quick, if we are looking at it more in the context of how do we blow people's minds. And
well, it's speed in service of another thing, right?
Yeah,
So
it
it's
just
like
changes how it feels.
right, working as fast as you possibly can because you've been told to work as fast as you possibly can feels different than working as fast as you possibly can because you're delighted to make these awesome dishes for guests, and you know what
smile.
it means
Yeah.
to get them out quickly because they're with their families. They have their day going on. Like they have a finite time to interact with you too.
Right.
You can't just be like, oh, if it takes 3 hours, go fuck yourself. It's not how it works.
Right.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
and you
for
have
us-
to believe that you have the best systems in place to help you work as quickly as possible, right? That you're not working as fast as possible, but in some super inefficient system
Right.
where you're like, this could be done in such a better way,
Mhm.
right? It's like you also have to believe that the way you're doing it is the most efficient way to do it,
Mhm.
which
And-
I think you have to have all those systems that underlie it and make things easier, as efficient and easy as possible for the team members to also feel that.
Mhm.
So-
And rework them if you need to, right? You can learn this through the process as well.
We're getting somewhere. So my first question I had wrote down is, what is the impact you hope to have for this project? And you've just identified that impact,
Wow.
which is to make the mission the primary focus of what we do.
Fuck yeah.
Was that fair?
Yeah. I mean, make it living and breathing. Yes. Every day.
Living, breathing.
Because you could argue that when a new team member comes into our company, is right, they get that through orientation,
They hear about
They-
it for sure.
get that through their initial interaction. I mean, they probably even get it from the interview. They get it at orientation, and then they get it through their initial training with their leadership. And then what?
Right.
Well,
So,
I mean, go. Yeah, go.
oh no, sorry, I didn't want to stop you. I had like a different version of that
Okay,
question,
yeah.
which is piggybacking. Where are we missing? What's the gap that we're trying to plug, and like what's the bigger opportunity going forward?
This is a great question, just because I haven't sat in on everything specifically to, like, maybe for lack of a better term, pick it apart, but you might just start going moment by moment, starting from orientation and hiring, and be like, what are the things that we do that are our version of memorable experiences for the people coming on that give them those feelings? And I'm sure we have some, but if you're sitting in a classroom having somebody talk to you about what we do so that you can hear them share stories, that's one part, but not as powerful of a part as if you're experiencing it yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
If in orientation we're providing memorable experiences for
There should be some
our new
surprise.
team members. Right?
Yeah. Like there should be some surprises. There should be. This is something that I think people in the past have taken out of context about who I am, but like I lean on fun and ridiculousness a lot. I
while
do.
being a super professional.
But I lean on that stuff in such a way that people think oftentimes that I am not taking stuff as serious, but I actually 1,000,000% believe that when you have those moments of, for lack of a better term, we'll call it breaking the fourth wall, those are actually the moments that bring people in more. It's like your Deadpool moments, which are like, people love it, even though it's off the book in perfection, but it's actually not. It's like in lockstep with who we are. So Deadpool specifically is probably not the best example for Cat and Cloud, but that's I think
Chopping
something
people
that
up,
Let's use
cool.
a Jared Truby
Samurai
example right now.
swords.
Let's get a
could be
Trubyism.
it could be anything. I mean,
Not good enough.
I make jokes as thing, and
Wait here, tell me what breaking the fourth wall is real quick.
it'd be like if people are watching you in a movie, all of a sudden you look directly at them through the camera and you address them, and they're like, "Oh shit, they're talking to me."
Like in the office too.
Yeah,
they do
It's
that a
like,
lot.
"Oh my gosh, I'm part of it."
Yeah. Gotcha.
So basically, I mean, that's really it. I'm all of a sudden, I'm part of. Whoa, I just did it. I got it. Whatever that might be. So I mean, it's fun. Fun isn't always going to paint specifically the exact picture, but it is going to put you in a framework where you feel lighthearted and you feel connected to somebody. So I mean, fun could be funny. Fun could also be. I mean, fun is the honey sticks. We put out honey sticks so that a kid could come in and be like, "Oh, that's cool," and the parents can be like, "Yeah, you can have a honey stick or not," but like they're free. They cost us money.
Yeah.
Or marshmallows. We picked marshmallows to put on our chocolatey drinks because they are more whimsical and fun, and they evoke more emotion, and they're slightly unique comparatively to whipped cream.
You won my kids.
Well, I think we won a lot of kids, but it comes from that same place where it's like, what's a thing that has a feeling and is fun and unique so yeah, I mean, what could that be in orientation? What could that be in training? It could be as simple as, having what we used to do too. It's just somebody just delivers you an espresso when you walk in the door. That was a hospitality move. We've moved on because not everybody loves espresso, so we don't do that for everybody. And we've found ways to still offer things like that. But these are moments of, I walked in, I didn't ask for anything, I got something, or I wasn't ready for that, and then man, that was cool. You could insert many different things into that. We do a great job in a lot of ways. I mean, we are hospitable. We build in. I mean, a 2-step rule is one of these things, right? If you are being acknowledged at the back of the line when it's a slammed cafe, and shout out to Lauren, our coordinator, a lot of people too, but our coordinator at Swift, Lauren, is amazing at this. And you walk in the door and they're hollering at you, and that counts. That's a thing that if I walk into any other cafe, I'm more surprised these days than not if I get acknowledged before I'm at the front
100%.
register. So, and even after that, you're not really acknowledged again until your drink comes out. And oftentimes you're not even acknowledged for grabbing your drink. So the list could be long and distinguished. It also could be more focused and consistently talked about. And then there's all the fun things that you could do to just try to make somebody's day better. And that's truly individualized service. We have to be, that's a practice.
Right, but that's like where the potential magic is, because you're talking about like experiences people have at the highest levels of, like, I don't know, not to say fine dining is a bad thing, but like fine dining where they're thinking about intentions behind every type of service experience you could have, and then trying to apply those same types of ideas to our business where we serve 10x that number of people in a day.
Right.
Right. And that's like the challenge and the magic. If you can do it,
Mm-hmm.
I think that creates a really incredible experience that not many people offer.
Yeah. So that's part of your second question. First question?
I have more questions.
More questions, Your Honor?
Yes. So we've identified a primary focus. We've identified a few things that we could do well, but one of the things that comes up over and over in these meetings again are things that are aspirations or areas where we're not meeting the mark or not living up to what we think we could do. So I'd just like to go through some of those things. Like, you talked about some good stuff. What are some things that you'd like to see that you don't actively see?
Great stuff.
I would like to feel and see conversations consistently from leadership and referring to these ideas and I guess operationalizing is not the right word, but like integrating in such a way that we know more people are learning about it, that it's not only held by upper leadership And the way I think we would see that lived out is that you would see these things happening from frontliners, baristas, all of our amazing team members that are not just leadership, right? I mean, I shouted out Lauren. Lauren's a coordinator here. So I should be able to shout out 5 or 6 other frontliners at least who do the same thing if we were doing a great job at this, right? Consistently. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that where kind of where you're going? That's
Yeah.
one thing. Like,
Well, because I mean, you
Well,
could
let's
go.
get- go ahead.
This isn't in retail, but right, it's like you could go with Wiser creating the memorable experience for the kid who sent.
That was awesome.
Who sent us? Right, we draw on all of our invoices. Right,
Super cool.
Kid
Santiago.
experience.
There's a kid Santiago that really loved the drawings that we send. He did his own drawing of the Cat and Cloud logo. his parents mailed that back to us, and Michael took,
I wonder if I have a picture
in
of
terms
it
of
right
like
here.
making that an unbelievable, memorable experience. He took Santiago's drawing and made it into a sticker.
That's a perfect example of what we
Sent
should be doing.
a stack of them back to Santiago and his family, and then I think all the web orders that are going out this week. I don't know when this
They have
comes
a
out,
sticker in them.
but
Yeah.
as we're talking about this, all the orders that go out this week will have one of Santiago's stickers in them.
Yeah.
So that's like
That's
blowing somebody's
epic example.
epic
Mm-hmm.
service,
And it passes on to everybody else, and the story is told.
Yeah.
I want to read the note from the parent on the invoice. My 5-year-old insisted that I send this back to you. He very much enjoys the hand-drawn artwork and wanted to add his personal touch. And it's a super cute drawing of a cat and a cloud. And it says cat and cloud, and cloud is spelled CLAUD, which
Yeah.
is freaking awesome. Now we have this stack of stickers that are done by Santiago,
It's so good.
the boss.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, you could be if you were a barista and you heard somebody talking about espresso or coffee out right in front of you, you could just pull a shot for them and slide it out and be like, hey, you want to try this today? Things like that are so accessible and so fun and special and so kind of easy to do if we're just paying attention are great opportunities that we should be doing all the time, and we could be doing in all of our cafes all the time. It just brings people closer, and it doesn't kill the bank. I mean, we're not trying to give away. It's not like you're giving away all your merch. There's things we can do that are truly, whatever. Walk out and open the door for somebody who's got the drink tray full of drinks for their wherever they're taking it to. Just walk out and open the door for them. Thanks for coming in.
Because like you said, the advantage of a cafe is that there are so many touch points
Right.
that you could choose any one of them to like blow somebody's mind with.
Absolutely.
And create, and imagine how that person feels, how you feel on the receiving end when you like have your mind blown by something, and how that feels, and how that good feeling,
Mhm.
what a good feeling that is, right?
It's great. I see it not only in our cafe, many cafes. You get to the weekend and it's slammed and it's busy, right? And there's a line out the door, and everybody is focused on the operations of whatever, the order through drink process. So everybody's behind the counter. There's a lot of people, but the external space gets neglected because of the perception internally becomes so focused on crank it. It needs to be fast at the register. It needs to be fast at the drink handout, and like that's it. But meanwhile, the rest of the place is kind of slowly drifting, getting dirtier, and you don't necessarily always just have somebody out there consistently like keeping it tight and right for the loss of maybe 5 minutes. Like these things can become disproportionately prioritized. And if you're just not seeing the whole picture for the experience, you're just missing that opportunity. And it feels so good for a guest to come into a place that is organized, stocked, wiped down. That does take maybe it could be 10 minutes for one person, but 10 minutes for one person off the floor is going to have to happen for a 10-minute break anyway. So you might as well just build in 10 minutes here and there for every single person to go do these things.
Which again could be like a team leader sitting back at a retail and being like, well, I know the weekend, I know Saturday's slammed every day. we're looking at shift structures, all that stuff, but it's like I'm also going to look at like, hey, when are the times when I need to do these, like take these 10 minutes out into outside the bar and do these things for our guests, because that's just the feeling that they have walking into such a clean space is going to be so nice.
Well, and here's where over systemized. Well,
yeah,
this is where you're going to.
Yeah,
we're going to the same place.
Yeah.
Well, because my argument is that you never want to have a 10-minute slot where you just go out and clean, like maybe during shift turnover where you have first fives and last fives. But like the ideal situation is to see things as they're happening and then remedy them as soon as possible, because you don't want a empty table full of garbage and like shit just sitting there for any length of time.
Yeah.
So it's
because
just,
your 10 minutes isn't until like 5 more
right.
minutes.
It's like, I don't check till 11, so we're good
Yeah.
until then. Like what you want to be able to do is to create a system where people feel comfortable looking up at the line.
Right.
Because there's any busy time, we've got 2 concierges. So there's
Right.
2 registers firing off. So it's not like there's always that guest coffee cafe system. That's our triage system that exists, which we take care of the guests first and foremost. So at no point in time are we leaving a guest hanging, right? So you can say, Lauren's going to help you out. I'll be right with you guys. Pop out, 30 seconds, bust the table, get it done, wash your hands, recover back to the concierge station, and keep going. And then see that as those things are happening. And like you're kind of consistent ongoing maintenance versus things that are only rooted in systems and structure, because the systems and structure provide the culture provides the framework for the systems and structure, and then the systems and structure provide the framework for like the operations. But you can only get to a certain level if you don't then reinvest into the culture.
Right.
Like it's you end up becoming essentially like, who has really good systems and structure? Starbucks has awesome systems and structure. You know who has great systems and structure? McDonald's fucking kills it. Like pick any big fast food company or whatever. Like they have really dialed in operations. We could probably learn something from them.
Always.
But then they have a tap out point to where they're not going back in at that cultural level.
Yeah.
Their employees have no autonomy. They don't feel connected to a deeper purpose. So it's just like, hey, the thing says I don't do this till 11. I don't do this till 11.
Right.
And then you miss out on those magical moments of everything that Jared's talking about right now.
Well, and I think our teams do, a great job considering what they've been taught. But I would potentially even argue that might be happening is that we are potentially waiting for first and last fives, right? Like that might be what's happening in over systemization at times when we're not going out. It's like, well, somebody's coming on in 20 minutes, so let's do the first fives. And that's where, again, when we refocus on what the mission is as it's living and breathing and the expression of what we do, we revert back to, yes, first and last fives are to make it easier throughout the day so that when we do go out there in those other times, it's less work, right? It's like the whole concept of if you use the bathroom, you clean and reset the bathroom has been talked about over and over and over again, but it also isn't always done and it's not absorbed by our team. And that's our work to do always, because it's a courtesy that it's like a gift that keeps on giving. If everybody there's 8 of us who work here, there's probably eight bathroom breaks total minimum a day per cafe. So that's 8 opportunities to clean it without the fives too. These are all they're really little touch points that can really go a long way, and they mean a lot to everybody.
Yeah, I do, but I still would push, just maybe not a pushback, but it's a question. It's like, Baka, it's
Push. I'm ready.
Yeah, so, right, like our cafes are really busy. There's a line out the door for hours at a time.
Yep.
And with 2 concierges.
Yep.
A barista and a barback.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a line out, right? The line is not ending. And as a guest who's in that line, like so 2 concierges, you got the people on bar, like there's, hopefully they're getting drinks out, but you need the 2 people to continuously take orders and the 2 people making drinks to continuously make drinks. And I know there's also maybe a support person, but it's like, how does that reflect on the experience if you're constantly having to pop out from behind bar to clean, then the line will be longer for longer.
Well, that's one example, right? So let's like look at this in the context of the entire floor, and there's a couple caveats here. So like the example of the concierge popping out is one potential person popping out. At any given time, there's someone bringing out food from the kitchen,
totally.
and we all know full hands in, full hands out. So like anytime there's something going out, they should be bringing something back in with them as well. And then the push, pull, ebb and flow for every different position. You mentioned support, which is great. Like there are other people in the back of house who pop out. And then also barista milk steamer too. It's like there's not always a constant, even when it's knockdown, drag out busy, someone's got more of a load than someone else, which it might be. We've got millions, like shot puller's good, milk steamer's buried, I got to assist on milk steaming, or the reg is light, or the reg is heavy and the barista station is light. So it's not just one person's responsibility, it's the entire team's responsibility. So that makes it more easy. And then on the bigger end of things, all a brand is a promise. If we say we're going to do something, then we need to do it. And we need to build the structure to enable us to keep that promise. So if we can only keep the promise of we need to work within this certain framework and sometimes the tables are going to be dirty, then that's a promise that we can make and keep. But if we say, hey, our place is immaculate, then we need to figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah.
So that's really on us to make the decision of like what level do we want to go to and then figure out how to get to that level. That's the hard work.
But we already did a thing that you guys are missing that meets both of you in the middle, which is the flex shift. We actually have people built in that can be perfect for addressing exactly what you said, right? We have this shift set up that allows people it basically sets us up to be overstaffed in case people call out. So, I mean, sure, if people are calling out and this shift needs to go cover somewhere, that's a thing. But we're built in to have extra hands, and that's supposed to be intentionally focused on minimized issues like that, right? Like they don't have to stay for a full 8 hours. They may, but they also know that they could be cut loose early. And that's the whole point is you're here now, make it so. And that comes back down to leadership to refocus on the mission. What do we see? What do we do? And send them and keep them on, not keep them. It's training. It's focus. It should be fun. I'm making it sound when I speak this way that it's like nobody's interested in this and we need to teach them.
No, and I think it just
that's what
brings
it's
to light
for.
like a lot of communication needs to happen.
Exactly.
Right.
It's
a lot
the
of
focus.
communication between the concierge and the bar, a lot of communication between support, between food coming in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, ideally, I would imagine a really busy, well-running cafe has a lot of communication happening.
Always.
And the more communication, the better, probably. Like the kitchens at like a lot of really well-run restaurants are like great examples of that, where you'll hear people in the kitchen like yelling, talking back and forth as things are happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be interesting because I don't know what the level of communication on a busy Saturday at our cafes are.
Yeah, I mean, I think it absolutely takes practice, and I think everybody can get better at it for sure. We have a relatively young team at some of our cafes right now, so they're learning that. But it really comes down again to leadership and teaching them to speak it and walk it and practice.
Yeah, I think communication is definitely part of it, but then without that greater cultural context and the understanding that there are certain things in the organization that aren't just one person's job, they're every person's job. And you see this happen really naturally when you go to an event. It's a really strange thing. So if we do, a pour over pop-up or event coffee, there's something about being in this different place, different time. Just seemingly there's like a lack of rules, but that leads to people working together in really tight quarters where no one's ever dropping the ball. We're at Meta last week or the week before last, and it's just 3 of us. And there's not one Meta employee that came up to the table that was left who, didn't get a reach out, didn't get said hi to, didn't get physically pulled into the interaction. Like every single person, sometimes it's groups of people, where we're just like pulled into the interaction. and we were giving out free samples of coffee. We're giving out bags of coffee for people to take it home. Like, people knew who we were. We're engaging in all these different conversations depending on what the people needed. We didn't have any pregame about, okay, here's what we're going to do. It's, for some reason, there's this freedom of being outside the cafe that allows us to do what we need to do every day even better for some reason. And I don't know what it is. It might be almost this lack of structure to where there's only 3 of us here. We have to make this thing pop. Everybody has to pull their weight. There's nowhere to hide. Like, having nowhere to hide is like this huge, incredible thing.
And you guys also all have a lot of experience.
True.
In the coffee industry.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of cultural accountability side by side.
But it's
when
like,
you're talking about that. Nowhere to hide.
If there's 3 of us and I'm slacking,
it'll be obvious.
No fucking way. You know what I mean? It's so obvious, and everyone's going to look at me like, wait, what? And there's this other greater goal. So it's like, we're fortunate enough to be doing Meta's office coffee for the year. And part of all of our wholesale partner program things, it's like, okay, if we have a partner, we want to go above and beyond for that partner. What are their specific needs? What do they need help with? We have a whole bunch of expertise. Some of it is right for some people, not right for other people's.
Yeah, we can do pretty much anything coffee related, though.
Meta really wants to do a lot of in-person engagement because they're trying to get people back into the office, or, they have there's a push to get people back in the office, and they want to provide interesting things for them to engage with. So it's like, if you guys just show up and do this stuff, that's going to be really great for us. So it's like, we know going in there that we're not going just to make random pour overs. This is all in service of this really big client that we have, essentially, So we know that if we show up and we fuck up, it's not going to be good for the business. It's not going to be good for our promise, because we said, hey, we're actually really good at service and support, and we can do these demos. We can connect your staff more deeply to coffee. We said that. We made that promise. And if we blow it, it's like plain as day that we're not making the promise.
Right.
In the cafe, kind of back to what Jared's talking about, it's like, we set the fundamentals with orientation, but like on the day-to-day, it's unclear whether everyone's looking each other in the eye and saying, remember the promise we made? Remember when we said we're like the leader in hospitality and specialty coffee?
Yeah.
Remember who we said we're going to be? We're one of the best in the world. People look at us, and we're promising to deliver X, X, and X for every guest who walk through the door. And if you have the whole team looking at each other saying that before shift in a pregame,
like, let's get it.
It's an agreement, right? It's like, cool, we're fucking doing this thing together. It's like when we started the company, we start this company. We all have these dreams. We all have this energy. We're not checking in with each other and being like, hey, man, you going to come to work today? It's like, I'll see you at the cafe.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because we all said, like, this is the most important thing going on in our work lives right now. This is going to be the future of work for all of us. We have these dreams that we want to come true. And I'm like, are you down? And you're like, yeah, I'm down. Am I down? Yeah, I'm down. Charles says he's down. Like, we're fucking down. Like, if I let you guys down, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get away with it. And I want to help out. And like, you two the same on the other side.
And I think most people want to.
Absolutely.
That's the thing.
Oh yeah. Being of service is incredible. But without that explicit, like look you in the eye and like agree on this.
Right.
And like, you see that in all of the, these dinners that we go to, these really high-end Michelin star restaurants, it's like they for sure have pregame. They for sure have family meal. They for sure go over how the service is going to go, what it means that people are coming in
here.
What
the promises.
Right.
Right. And that's refocused every night. That is Will Guidara specifically is off. If you don't have a family meal, or if you don't have a pregame before every shift, I beg you to start.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons that our industry can suffer from this is false. This is completely false, that those places only get to care, or people only take it seriously because of the amount of money involved. And I say that's completely false.
That's
like, okay,
true.
cool, you're playing $300 or $400 on dinner, of course it's going to be good. It's like, no, it's not good because it's $400. Like, there's not a bigger meaning because it's $400. There's a bigger meaning because someone took the time to explain that meaning, because they took the time to connect with each other. It's like most of our lives are built around the things that happen every day. It's like, cool, we'll
Mhm.
go to fancy dinner every once in a while. Great. But like most of my life
that-
is determined around my time that I spend with you guys, the time that I spend with family and my day-to-day rituals. And for a
Right.
lot of people, that's going to the coffee shop. So
Mhm.
if you can knock that experience out of the park, you have a huge impact on someone's life. So just to think because it's a lower dollar transaction
Yep.
than something else doesn't have meaning that's not true.
It's absolutely not true. And it also doesn't have to be, it can be, the whole thing can be so fun. And I think that's the part that I
We wanna
back to
lean
fun
into,
again
yeah.
is like, yeah, it should be encouraging and exciting to say hi and to like pay attention to the greater space around you when you walk out to bus and or reset a condiment station and take out the trash. Like if you're out there and you don't smile and say hi to somebody or check in on how a drink's going, you know, even if you forgot, let me just be super like, if you forgot to full hands in, full hands out it, or full hands out, full hands in it, if you full hands out it and you didn't check in or say hi or smile at anybody, like that is a fail too. Like the whole thing is doable. You can grab a cup and pick it up on the way back in the bus and like, how was your cappuccino today? That is a huge deal. Like, I mean, and in fact, I talked about it the other day. We went to Indian food. It was great. I love Indian food. And there was new or different management at the place that we went to since the last time I went, and sat down. They were quick with everything. They brought the water, asked for drinks, all the stuff's normal. And then they're like, we order our food. And the guy's like, oh, butter chicken, that's going to be perfect for the kids. It's not spicy or anything. But then they come back and they check in. Hey, how's everything going? And, you know, a little bit of engagement, a couple jokes and things like that. And I'm like, oh, that's fun. And then they were quick with like bags for take home. And they were just like anticipating service. And on the way out, he's all, hey, I really hope everything was good. We've been trying really hard. And it seemed like you guys liked everything. I was like, it was. And I walked out of there like, that was the sickest thing ever. And then props to our team. I think that we give experiences similar to that all the time. And we deserve to be proud in that regard. But what I will say that I'm almost positive we don't do is we're not out actively checking in with guests during our cafe shifts as much, going like, hey, how is everything going today? And like hearing from that and bringing it back to our team. And just that presence is powerful. And that presence shows people that you mean it, that you care. And I think that shit is cool. I mean, that's just a human experience that feels nice. You feel seen, you feel heard, even if, and we should always take the information and process it appropriately, but even if the person does something like, yeah, I just didn't like the chai, it's not spicy enough for me. It's like, cool, we can't fix that. We have a chai that we
maybe
make.
an opportunity to get them something else, or
We can get them something else.
Yeah.
Or if they just don't like our chai, like we can be like, cool, would you like a tea? Or yeah, I mean, we only have this kind of chai. It's great for us. And yeah, you know, like we appreciate you being here. You know, I mean, it's still powerful. It still means that you had a human interaction, and that person leaving is going to be like, oh, that's cool. They acknowledged me. And I know that it wasn't like the chai was well prepared still, right? It wasn't a mistake. It was just, this is the kind of chai they have. I don't love the chai at Cat and Cloud. That's fine. I'll go somewhere else for my chai. But they heard me and they talked to me about it. And that was cool. You know, I think human interaction is just something that obviously can be missed too easily. And it's built in all around us. So that's another, write it down, dude. That's just,
I wrote it down.
Yeah. It was easy to do. It was one of my favorite parts when I'm out and about is get a little chat in. It's honestly a mini proposed break, as long as you're not doing the stop and chat and spending 10 minutes at a table. So if you're listening to this and you work for us, this is not your excuse to go sit down with somebody and have like a conversation in the middle of a shift. But there is a 1 to 2 minute little range out there where you can be chatting it up with people and checking in, as long as you're not doing it only with your friends and you're not doing it only with the people that you know. This is about guest experience, not your friend's experience. I think this stuff is actually important to talk about, because I think people attempt to do it because they care. And I totally don't want to take away from those people who are in their head going like, I try to do this all the time, but you are just missing a little bit of the nuances. You know, the guest in the back of the line is just as important as the guest in the front at the same time, even though you're talking to the one. And the guest you don't know who's never been here before, or maybe has been here every day and you just don't talk to because you don't, is just as important as the one who engages you and makes you feel like you should be talking to them every day. You know, they all are the same person. We're all the same, trying our best.
Trying our best.
You got me ranting a little.
Yeah, this is good. This is what I need. I'm basically having you plan out the plan.
Great.
So,
Love that.
yeah.
I do that sometimes.
Right. So we got a few
No, this is
things
how
that
we
we do
work.
really well over and over again. And then we've got a few things that are missed opportunities. So if we were going to fast forward 1 week or two, like what are a couple things we want to have done to try to capitalize on those missed opportunities or communicate the things that we feel like are not being thoroughly communicated?
I mean, first thing I would do is I would identify any cultural language that we've used that fits the bill to the shit we're talking about that isn't being used consistently and or trained, right?
Give me an example.
I mean, clarifying guest coffee cafe, full hands out, full hands in. Do we say it? Use the bathroom, clean the bathroom. Man, what are some of the other fun ones? Tables that are on fire. Cornucopia effect, PCM, pastry case management, staging, right? Where does all of our shit live and stay? What does clean actually mean? I mean, that, like, I would identify, there's probably more, but you know what I'm saying? Like, identify all the cultural language that we have that may not be used consistently and reiterate it. I would make sure that we're all clear together and with our leadership about, you know, a realistic expectation before, you know, you don't want to go in and drop every single thing and be like, this all needs to, you know, we don't want to overwhelm anybody. It's going to be
There's like a
process and a
It's
project.
a journey.
I think reiterating our mission and trying our best to get everybody to start speaking about it in framework of like the day-to-day and like the tasks they do is one of the exercises I'd bring to the table.
Yeah, that seems first and foremost to
Right.
me because
Yeah.
all of the other, even the cultural language stuff,
It just supports it.
those are good, but it's a supporting thing
Right.
because at the end of the day, those are all, they're slang, but they're also systems. You know what I mean? Like Guest Coffee Cafe is a system.
Yeah.
And unless it's in service of something bigger, like
Sure.
full hands out, full hands in is a system or a, you know,
Mm-hmm.
skill or a tactic or
Process.
whatever. Yeah, process. That's a way to put it. But unless you know why
Right.
full hands out, full hands in is important, like why a table on fire is important,
Mm-hmm.
then it's all for naught.
Right. And I think, you know, if our mission is what we do every day, it's being really clear about what that looks like in the context of those things. So the reason I mentioned those language things is just making sure that we're not missing them, right? Because I don't want, unless there's a need for it, things to be reinvented that we just haven't been using, right? That's where I went with that. But I agree, it's get really clear about what does the best version of our mission look like from every position all day, and start playing that game with our team leaders and coordinators and start getting them to probably, you know, write it out themselves. Well, I don't know exactly how, whether it's list form or outline form, but then essentially speaking about it together and openly, and then suggesting exactly how it needs to be, and start, you know, then you kind of start project managing it out, maybe, in a way. I hate the term project manage because it's living and breathing, but it's true. You kind of set the benchmarks for like maybe week by week what you're focusing on until it's all consistently happening, or month by
'cause
month.
there's like all the cafes have monthly meetings. You know, there's
They have
times
weeklies
when
too.
weeklies, when times when the team leaders and coordinators are on the floor. So there are all these times to discuss about bigger picture ideas, and then all the touch points and time to like work on reinforcing them with the team, right?
And TLs get one-on-ones as well. So there's opportunity for, provided, you know, we all get on the same page, there's opportunity for multiple touch points weekly around this. Any other things coming up? What do you think?
I was thinking about our scorecard.
I mean, that'll
Mm-hmm.
support it.
The walk the floor.
Walk the floor scorecard. Yeah.
I haven't really seen the walk the floor. So Herman sent it over to me. I haven't gone all the way through it, but I'm more thinking about because in our scorecards, which was not necessarily just the walk the floor, we had kind
Oh,
of
you mean the upper division one?
broken everything down in terms of there's a financial metric, but there's also this cultural metric, and figuring out how to measure these cultural metrics it's trickier,
Mm-hmm.
but just so important.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
I was talking to Herman when we were going through just kind of the financial part of the walk the floor and looking at some of the things that are tougher to maybe just measure explicitly. And I mean, I think there's fun things you can do where you can create almost little games or times when you're like going into the cafe and you're just taking measurements of like, cool, I'm going to measure whatever this, and it could be something cultural, right? That's what we're talking about,
Mhm.
things that are harder to measure with numbers. It could be like, cool, I'm going to go to the cafe every, I don't know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, once a month. That's 10 to noon. Like, and we're going to measure, drink times from just that period, or we're going to measure something like full hands out, full
Sure.
hands in during that time. And you can pick these little times, at consistent times over weeks or months. And I feel like that's still a good way
Absolutely.
to measure things and to kind of to measure things that are harder to measure. And it's not a perfect measurement, but I think if
Yeah.
you get enough data points of those kind of like snapshots of time in the cafe, that they do become representative of the experience over time.
So with you.
So that was one of the things we talked about in terms of how to measure things that are like generally harder to measure with like numbers or things.
I
Yeah.
mean, if you look at our values, though, it's the perfect values proposition anyway. If we're looking to actively pursue better, it is a better version. It's something that we don't have, right? It's an attempt at a metric that will give us more information than we currently have, and it'll give us data.
Yeah.
And until we find a better version than that, we need to move towards it, I think. And I would say that's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yeah, that's an interesting way of doing it.
Because we don't, I mean, that's been, I think with a lot of things in general, is if we don't feel 100% confident that it is like the best way, sometimes we'll kind of put it, kind of sit back and it'll
won't
just
happen.
go. I mean, this is a great conversation around it, is like we've consistently had a hard time measuring the cultural stuff, right? With walk the floors, with everything. But we are about to put something together that's the next best attempt at it. And it's going to give us something that we don't have. And that's great, especially if we're going to address this. So I'm with you. I think it's great. It's all challenging because I think our problem is that we will always see holes as owners and leaders. But yeah, without trying, then we won't find what's the next best thing anyway.
Yeah, and you won't truly be excellent unless you can solve what those challenging pieces of the business are, because they're challenging for everyone, but the people that can solve those challenging problems or situations are the ones that are going to provide that special experience and those things that are above and beyond what other people are doing, because other people aren't putting the time into solving those challenges.
Right. And you think about that concept I said earlier. If you're going out to do your fives and you're not talking to a guest or engaging in some regard, even if it's just like a hello or how are you doing, or I hope, welcome in, something to that effect, and that means that's a fail. Even if you're brand new, if you're not doing that, that means that our leadership isn't making that a point as part of the training. So, I mean, we can measure those things by sitting in the cafe still and being like, it's not happening. And we can't be like, well, they're in training, it's their first day. Be like, no, that still counts. Like, that's part of it. That is part of it. So I like it. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm sitting here like grumpy about our team. I am actually more inspired to be the best at this in the coffee game. And in lots of games, not only the coffee game, in hospitality game, I'd love to be one of the best and looked at it as it across all industries, and to be inspiring to people all over the place. And I think we are, but I'd
Well,
love to.
that's why
I
I'm
know
kinda-
we are.
That's why I'm kind of grilling you here a little bit, because you're way more positive in your disposition right now than
Yeah.
you were about 30 minutes ago, when it seemed like you're like, fuck, we got so much work to do. And
Well-
I don't think you at no point we're slamming anybody on the team,
Yeah.
but there is a certain disappointment that kind of
Well, it's just there's-
like
it's like,
like,
well, it's because
ekes
our
out,
company's
and what
not
I'm
living
trying
up
to-
to what I want
Well,
it to
the
do.
W-
well,
disappointed
that's what I'm trying to get
relative,
to.
yeah.
It's like, what are we gonna do to fix this? Quote unquote. We'll call it a. It's not really a problem. It's more of an opportunity, because we have a great business, we give great service, and we have
Awesome team.
an awesome team, and I'm super proud of what we do. And yeah, you damn right we can be better, like in a
Mhm.
million different ways, and we have a lot to learn, and that's an exciting thing. So yeah,
Well,
where do we put rubber to the road?
Yeah.
And how does it function? Because we can have these conversations all day. I think the three of us, despite our different strengths, agree on 99% of what's going on here. You
Yeah.
know? And the challenge is, how do we connect these ideas that were fundamental in founding this company with everybody from A to Z, like
the other 100 people
the other 100 people
that
right
are here. Right.
And like my thoughts on it are, it's got to be through leadership, but it's got to include the front line.
Absolutely.
Like, for sure. It's got to be, and you've said this already, but it's got to be first and foremost in everything that we do. Like, everything has to have a direct connection back to this bigger cultural element.
Mhm.
Even if it is a super operational thing,
Sure.
it's just like a living embodiment of this start with why mentality. And
Yeah.
the golden circle, like, kind of needs to be prevalent in all of these things. And it's going to take a lot of communication and hands-on stuff, because when you're seeing things that not everybody sees, even if you
Mhm.
write that down, put it into a some sort of framework, that doesn't make it.
Doesn't
It's
make
about-
it so.
It's about that discovery process and like
Yeah.
helping people learn to see rather than telling them what to see.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to find that magical. Yep.
It's like, you can imagine standing in line with someone and saying, like, not even saying rate this shop 1 out of 10, but it's like, how's it feel right now? Like,
Yeah.
what does it feel like? You're like, I don't know. It feels like picking up. It feels like a 6. Okay. Like, why?
Yeah.
What do you see now? What? Like,
Yeah.
let's find some
Turn it into a
supporting.
7 for
Let's
me.
let's find some supporting evidence. Okay, well, like, I mean, this person's friendly, but there's kind of a mess over there, and it looks like the person at the reg is taking, maybe 30 seconds longer in every conversation that they need to. Like, there's some follow-up questions that aren't being asked. All these, and it's just kind of like walking through that,
Yeah.
like, on a regular basis, and just kind of, I don't know, just allowing some of that time for discovery.
I'm with you.
Like, versus us just telling people this is how the 10 things have to be.
yeah.
Like, it's that combination. You need to set the standard, but there's also something about discovering it on your own.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's that's the leadership development portion, I think, right? I mean, and we can do that with the frontliners as well, but the leadership has to come first and get
Mhm.
there. I also think we need to build in the the accolades / competition portion of it, internally, build some sort of recognition system, some form of scoring. I mean, we're going to have our scorecards. That's one thing, but I think we could literally make a competition. If you could literally be like, if you went around to every cafe because you care about the answer specifically so much, which one made you the best shot of the answer this quarter consistently? If you went to every cafe, it'd be like, Chris picked this one. Like, that would be sick. People would be stoked, I think, as an example. I mean, that stuff like that, I think, does go somewhere. I don't know. The roastery, it could be who was 100% nailing all their curves. I don't know. Things like that. Like, let them know. We could put it on if a cafe for the, have our quarterly winner of the cafes who score the highest on our walk the floor system. And if they do, then they get a thing, whatever we talked about. And Maybe highlight them and put them on IG and our newsletter and send it out and shout them out and mad props. We could have cafe MVPs based on something cultural if we figured it out. I don't know, making stuff up, kind of. I've talked about a little of it. You could have cafe that has the highest or the least amount of waste, aka highest margin or something like that. We could like, depends on how many you want to do and that fit culturally as well. We could create surveys for our guests, and whoever's cafe gets the highest guest satisfaction rating gets something quarterly. And then you kind of get whatever you get. I don't know. I'm making something up. Maybe you don't get a lot of interaction from guests. Maybe you get a shit ton. Whatever. I mean, if it's related, think about things that are related to our values and then come up with some sort of competition and or accolade that could like measure them at a high level and see who could like try to outperform the other, maybe. Teamwork related stuff. I don't know. Could come up with some things. I know that they were helpful for us though, and anything competition related is the reason that I learned to tamp coffee to 0.1%, 0.1 gram accuracy without a scale. That we wouldn't have done that without competition.
Do you think it was the competition, or do you think it was that you were part of a bigger community that was holding you accountable in some way, shape, or form?
They were only holding us accountable to competition. There was no other reason to do it, because that amount of coffee waste is nothing. So the reason to waste nothing is to score higher in competition. People were wasting way more than that with total fine. Like they were fine with it. Milk waste, competition. Clean pitchers, competition. Perfect bar, competition. Like almost literally.
Yeah, I'm kicking that one around in my head.
I mean, speed of service and guest interaction, nothing related to competition. All the flow and all of our energy brought to competition, and who we are and our perspectives, not competition related at all. Also, arguably what made it challenging for us to win until we started playing both sides and learned the rules.
Yeah. I don't have any fully completed thoughts. I'm like kind of thinking of what is I'm not against, well, I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't have anything.
I mean, it all contributed to quality, but there was no need to go to that level unless there was a reason, and nobody else was pushing us to that reason but competition, not our owners.
Right. Well, the push comes from inside us, not from the external thing. Like that's
not true. You think you would have gone that hard if you didn't think you were going to win competition?
I think you have to have the desire to do better to even show up in a space like that and take it seriously.
Agreed.
So I agree with you that certain things happen to a higher level when you get people in a group doing something together. You see that in all kinds of things. Like, for example, just even my recreational activities. Like, if I go skateboard by myself, it's way more chill than if I'm skating with 5 people who are much better than me.
Yeah.
I will be better because I'm around those 5 people.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So, but like I have to have the desire to put in that effort first, and then the environment definitely matters.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things for sure. Environment matters.
Yeah.
Like, then it's like, I guess what I'm wondering is competition within the workplace the best way to like foster this, or is there a way that we can be in community without necessarily competing against each other that drives similar results?
Barista competitions.
Like, I work with you guys.
Yeah.
And because we work together, we all come up with better, more thoughtful ideas than if we were working alone. But we're not competing against each other in any way. We're actually working for the same thing. So is there a possibility for that in organization? And it's, maybe not an award for who's making the best espresso, but something that's, I don't have a good alternative. I'm just kind of thinking out loud about
I think that's the challenge.
You know what I mean?
I mean, you just have to look at humans, not like, if they're around all people who are trying to do coffee at our level, Sure. But I mean, that I think is the whole challenge, though. So how do you get people to get to the? I think that's how we got to the level, is that we were challenged to step up to a level via a competition circuit and people we didn't work with. So that's kind of my whole point, is what is our or anybody's version of that. If you're skating, you're seeing what's possible by somebody who's really good, so then you're going to try to do something better. But if you're not around somebody way better consistently, then you don't. It's like the same thing I felt when I was in Chico. I was the best at texturing milk, so I didn't know it was any better until I went to competition and saw how far behind I was. If I'm not, if you're playing basketball, sure, you're going to want to step up, but you're still competing. Like, they're still trying to, I don't know. It's hard for me to still disassociate it. I think competitions and accolades are just, there's no way around it. I know we maybe idealistically want people to just want it because they want it, but I don't think that's human nature. I think people want to be rewarded and seen and celebrated, and I just do.
But you have to want it, right? Because you're taking, take yourself as an example. It's not like a competition made you who you are. You first had to have the desire, the want, and that whatever attitude that made you even want to enter in the first place. And then once you're there, you saw what happened.
Mm-hmm.
You had to choose to go to the next level and try to be better. Because for every one of you, there are hundreds of people who were exposed to competition,
Mm-hmm.
went there and said, yep, nope, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm out the door. So you
Mhm.
kind of have this like survivor bias, but I'm saying that the core is inside each individual person. And, like, what's the motivating factor? Like, I really enjoyed doing competition,
Mm-hmm.
but I would have been a professional barista, and I was taking my job seriously, super seriously, with or without it. And it's me taking my job seriously that led me to competition,
Mm-hmm.
not competition that led me to taking my job seriously.
Yeah, I just think that competition elevated your skill set, though.
Totally.
And that without it, we wouldn't have elevated our skill sets the same. Because we wouldn't have had a framework or a challenge, right? It'd be like if I stayed at the Naked Lounge, you just stay that level.
Well, we would have had a different challenge and probably found a different way
Sure.
to figure that out. Because I don't believe that, like, there's one key to the church, right? So the fact that there is these barista competitions, like, if you get barista competitions off the table, I don't think that I end up being stuck in 2005. Like, I don't actually think that. I think that people find different ways to improve and get themselves, like, whatever community they need to grow in the way they need to grow, right? It's like you're finding ways to grow as a leader without there being a leadership competition or being part of a formal leadership circuit.
Yeah.
Like, you're not just stuck because there's no governing body that says you're the championship of leaders. You're like growing in your own way.
Totally. But do you think you would have stuck in specialty coffee without competitions?
Oh, for sure.
You really do?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean,
I feel like competitions were like a big driver for you.
I love them. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
great. But it wasn't.
Like, you don't think you might have like thought about career switch if there wasn't, because I mean, all of that is, I think, what elevated so much of both of our lives.
Competitions changed my life in a big way because, well, one, I like being on stage and I like
Yeah.
sharing information. So
For sure.
presenting to me feels very natural.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
any ideas I have, I love sharing. I'm a journey share guy. So it provided that for me, which I hadn't had in like a long
Totally.
time. I think the only thing that I'd had relatively prior to that was like playing in I played in a band and we would play shows,
Yeah,
and there's
yeah,
just some
totally.
energy that comes along with being on stage.
Yeah,
So
that's
I think
the best
I think that's a cool
music.
thing for that. And then like it connected me to the greater community, which is great. But
Yeah.
it's like, even before I had my first competition, I had a blog and I was writing about coffee.
Yeah.
Writing about specialty coffee as early as like 2004 or something like that. Just kind
Right.
of sharing the thing. So I was in this zone to where it's like, I'm pretty sure this is something I'm going to want to figure out and I'm going to be sticking with it. And competition's like the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
But even before I did the competition, it was like, you know, I had visited, you know, like Ritual and Blue Bottle before that. And I knew of Stumptown before I ever competed and was like, I want to work somewhere like that.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
Got the jobs.
People I looked up to competed, so I definitely wanted to do it.
Yeah.
For sure. But I'm just like, I got to work there. Like,
yeah, that was it was just a different perspective from because I was competing just to help the company get notoriety because that was nobody else to compete. And that's what kind of had me doing it and to bring us all forward. So I had like a different perspective on competition. And then in order to get the accolades, you had to progress. It wasn't ever so much like.
Not necessarily though.
For me, for sure.
No, I
a 1,000,000%.
See, my experience with you is probably really different than your experience with you. And I think this is one of the things this is one of the reasons where I was like, the first time I saw you, you were fucking blowing it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like this guy.
Well, yeah, I had fun with it.
Well, you had more than fun with it. Like, no, it's like.
Nobody goes down in flames, but.
No, it's not even about
wild,
that.
Dude.
It's like, so what I saw when I saw you was someone who, despite your performance, which if you go by the score sheet, you could say was atrocious.
No, it was totally atrocious. Funny though, and entertaining.
But this is actually great because this is kind of tapping back into what we're talking about when we're talking about you know, culture versus just systems, right? So by the score sheet, you're last. But in terms of watching you, I'm like, this guy obviously cares about what he does. This guy is really entertaining. He feels very genuine in his love. And I was just like, if I
that was true.
Out of everybody, so that year when I saw that, when we first met and you went down in flames,
it was awesome.
I don't remember anybody else except for me, you, and Heather
Perry for sure. Yeah.
That's it.
Sure.
So there are 40 people in the competition.
Totally.
All of them beat you, yet somehow I remember you.
Actually, Shaun White.
Right.
He
disqualified.
No, but he still beat me.
So in that context, you created something that despite bombing, I'm like, I want to hang out with that guy.
Yeah.
So, and then fast forward to, you know, the subsequent years, because like even before we were really good friends, when I was emceeing the competition in LA.
Yeah, I got 5th.
And Sarah had me write an article for BMag.
Right.
And I was just like, Jared's my favorite barista, easily, da-da-da-da-da. There's this impact that you have that doesn't necessarily align with being the champion.
Sure.
So it's like when you finally did win the regionals.
Right.
My impression, like from the industry, is not like everybody looked at you and said like, oh, Jared's finally here. Now he's legit.
Now
it's like,
no, for
everybody already thought you were legit because you show up, you're passionate, you're friendly, you carry yourself in a certain way. And those are actually the things that matter to most people more than whether or not you have a trophy. It's like, I got fucking trophies just dying on the shelves. Like nobody gives a shit that I was second place in the USBC in a land before time. Nobody gives a shit that I won Brewers Cup. Like nobody gives a shit that I'm a Coffee Festival Latte Art champion.
I mean, they
like,
do, but
nobody
comparatively.
But they don't. They don't even like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm proud of those things. And I understand like the resume building potential of them.
Sure.
So it's like for you, it's almost probably more valuable now than it's ever been if we want to share that story with our staff and say, hey, we're not just some random dudes. Like we're actually both former barista champions. And like here's what we've done.
Sure.
Because it just shows participation. It's not like it's like we're actively engaging in something because we love it at a deeper level, because we saw potential in this thing, not because we're gonna be anybody from it. You know what I mean?
Right. That's fair. I see what you're saying.
That's just my impression of you. You know, it doesn't have to be correct or anything, but that's like how I came to appreciate you for ways that had nothing to do with you winning or not.
Yeah. No.
You know?
I mean, I hear that. I appreciate that. I'm more saying though, the reason I was competing, sure, I wanted to be good at whatever I did.
Right.
But that's just like it was anything. Like, that's just the competitive nature in me. It's like, if I'm not one of the best at whatever it is, I'm like, fuck, I'm got to learn how to be. Or
Right.
I'd like to learn how to be, provided my body will allow me to. Or
Right.
whatever
You've
the-
got this drive from
for sure.
inside
So that's
you.
like
yeah.
a thing. But when I was competing, it wasn't like me winning was for the greater good of the company, which would still elevate me, but it was more based around like survival of the squad and like being. I was like, well, if I can get a career out of this, that's super helpful for me. So it wasn't specifically, you're right, like for Jer is how it never felt that way. Because and then when you competed, it was helpful. But like, it was the other people competing. It was like, they're awesome, but there's a representing for like the company you work for and representing for like the thing that you're about. That was
Yeah.
always, which I felt like you also were about too. But it still didn't, I think competition still is the reason that we got so good at the coffee portion of it, technically.
Definitely.
And learning as much as we did as quickly as we did.
Definitely leveled up in terms of technical skill because of competition. No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're doing like 10,000 hours.
But yeah, so it's impossible to
I guess
avoid.
there's like
Yeah.
both sides to that, I guess, in my mind, where it's like so when we're talking about competition, it's like, what is our catalyst to get people to level up quickly in a way where it's self-driven and not right?
Right.
And
Right.
that's where competition to me is a great way to do it, and accolades and being seen and whatever that might look like.
And then maybe what I'm thinking about is like, okay, identifying multiple levels of contribution to where it's like a barista competition could be one of them. So
yeah,
but there's plenty of good baristas and plenty of good employees who will just have no ever desire to compete in a competition.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's fair. And that's true.
How do you carve out spaces to award or highlight these like multi-dimensional characteristics? Like, not everyone's going to get an award, but like, what is like what are the
Sure.
metrics of driving the culture forward? You know what I'm saying? And like, what are the metrics of
Yeah,
like if we took something like, yeah, I guess you kind of said it already in terms of guest experience or something. There's,
I mean, it could be something like, our company could benefit from more community engagement outside of the walls of our company. If people were into that in our company, that'd be a way to honor some of them and their ability to lead our mission forward. I don't know what that means, but I know companies do.
right. It's like,
Shit like that matters to me.
Exactly.
And that'd be a great opportunity that's different for those kind of people who don't want to compete, but do want to show up.
Right. And I was talking to Herman last Wednesday at the L, and this is, my default is I always want people to do the shit that I want to do, where it's like Herman has so much knowledge and he's talking about
Very
all these
smart guy.
things and
Yeah.
stuff. And then we're talking about Coffee Fest and events and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, bro, you need to go speak. And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, you need to go speak. Like, let's
Yeah.
book it right now. Let's figure this out. Like, there's all these places where you can go talk. And he's like, well, I got so much to learn. Yes, that's true. But every leader at this company is better than any manager I've ever had in my entire life.
Right.
We're doing like these undeniably good things. We should share this with the world. And I feel like that could be part of that too, where it's not a competition, but it's like, how cool is it that your boss, like our retail operations manager, is going to speak on a panel or to doing these things where it's like taking this stuff outside the walls, to where it's like competition for people who want to compete, other ways to engage for people who want to contribute in different ways. I don't know. It's all a riff right now. You know what I'm
I
saying?
mean, yeah, it makes me want all of our team leaders to have to give a little talk. That's what it means. That'd be epic to just hear them sit, like literally with all the support behind them and no need to like tear it apart, but literally like have them bring their passions to the table and share it at a team meeting with
PL
leadership.
talks, dude.
I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how just to let them practice and to share their own perspective on what our mission is to them in like a proper way. And I
I think that's super
a thing.
cool.
Anyway, we're just riffing on different
Yeah.
ideas.
So this
but
is good.
It's
I think
great.
we've identified a few things in this conversation.
All of a sudden, it's been like a 2-hour podcast. And Chuck's
This is
like, this
great.
is cool.
It's only 1 hour, 15 minutes.
That's it?
Yeah, I know.
Pretty solid.
Because we were so deep, dude. It was so heavy.
Well, we're deep. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to like sum up, for the project and how this like episode started, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Good talk.
yeah.
Hey everyone, that's the podcast for the week. Thanks so much for listening. If you heard something that inspired you, let us know, or tell a friend. These are the types of connections that are the most important to us and that we seek to create every day. If there's something you heard and you want to know more about, send us an email to podcast@catandcloud.com or head to our website, catandcloud.com/podcast, and let us know. While you're on our site, check out everything we have to offer. Dive deep into one of our single origin coffees or pick up a little treat for yourself. We have something for everyone, so check it out. Also, find us in the usual places, YouTube, Instagram. We're always there sharing amazing things. All right, that's it. Thanks everyone for being awesome. We'll be back next week.